FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
I think that her future is going to be a really fascinating, if Obama wins the election. We preface everything by saying that. But if Obama wins and McCain, Palin lose, her future will be a really fascinating question, and will be a window on broader questions within the Republican Party and the conservative coalition about what direction they think they need to go, and how they put Humpty back together again. She'll be competing, presumably, if you want to just talk raw politics, she'll be competing for that constituency within the Republican Party in 2012 with Mike Huckabee, who shows every sign of wanting to run again. And Huckabee, attractive candidate, I think. You know, I'll stop here for a second and just quickly tell a story. I had a bet with a friend of mine, a conservative friend of mine, that I made the day after she was announced. And he was sending me an email about what a help to the ticket she was going to be. And I said, I will bet you on November 5th, it will be judged that she was more hurtful to the ticket than helpful. I'll bet you that right now. Not bad, eh? And
how much? How much did you bet?
I've absolved him from paying. He's just gonna buy me a lunch. But you know, I emailed him the other day, last week. An NBC News Wall Street Journal poll came out that showed, perhaps some of you saw, that she was the main reason that people who weren't voting for McCain weren't doing so. And I emailed him to needle him a little bit about it, and he said, look, I'll buy you lunch. I don't dispute the point, but I still say she's helped the ticket, because I still say that if she weren't on the ticket, McCain would be 15 points behind.
Well,
and I admit that I hadn't thought of it that way, but it might be true. And so, you know, this question of her future, you know, she's got a very dedicated base, and she might well, you know, she's going to be in there fighting for the mantle.
As the memory of her interview with Katie Couric fades. And so, but I know you've been following her.
I just, 2 points. I agree with everything Mike says. She has a couple of structural problems, which, and I also agree that Huckabee is not to be underestimated. And Palin, looking at it coldly, fighting for that base, and they're already gravitating around her. She's already become sort of the martyr of this election in certain parts of the Republican Party. But she has 2 problems. First of all, she is in Alaska. Huckabee already has a show on Fox. Doesn't mean she won't get one if Roger Ailes will build a studio in Anchorage or Juneau. And secondly, there really isn't much there. I mean, and I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it in a glib way. The fact is that she doesn't have much experience. She doesn't know much about the major issues of the day. She knows about local issues in Alaska. And she hasn't shown any great ability to learn in this pressure cooker. And Huckabee, while there's some areas like economics he knows nothing about, or knows as little about as, say, McCain does, Huckabee actually was successful, you know, running a state. He does have well-formed issues, positions on issues, and so. I'm not convinced that all these sort of smitten Republicans really have found the champion they want, and she could end up going the way of someone like Agnew, who caused a tremendous amount of excitement, often with Bill Safire's words helping him, among the same cohort in the Republican Party of that time, and then blew up even before he was caught, you know, with his hand in the till.
Well, I wonder if we have some further thought about this.
It surely depends on things that we can't yet know. If we assume that that McCain is defeated on November the 4th, Sarah Palin's future must depend greatly on how she decides to play it over the next 3 to 4 years, but also, crucially, on how Obama succeeds in office. I mean, that's going to be the crucial question, it seems to me. I mean, what would she be running against? She's come into this game nationally very, very, very late. completely blindsided everybody. None of us would have expected it. So, you know, she's just at the beginning of her political career. I would just say that, you know, the kind of obvious thing for someone from my country to say, which is that in the early 1970s, we had an extremely controversial and unpopular education minister called Margaret Thatcher, who was derided and scorned and patronized and deeply unpopular. You know, I as a student went on anti-Thatcher demonstrations before you had ever heard of Mrs. Thatcher. But look what happened afterwards. And it was all to do with reinventing herself and being part of a highly professional team that knew how to exploit the situation that they were presented with when the opportunities occurred. And it seems to me, you know, that's the unknowable thing for Palin in 2012 or later, because she is actually quite young.
I will just say that for me personally, one of the most difficult things in the world has been to recall the names of the vice presidential candidates of yesteryear. And there have been a lot of them over the years who've just disappeared utterly. And defeat is not a great recommendation for a continued career. But Margaret Thatcher stands to warn us.